The morning air in downtown Seattle felt cold against Marcus Chen's face. He pulled his worn jacket tighter around his body as he walked down 3rd Avenue. His backpack hung heavy on his shoulders. Inside were all the things he owned in this world. A blanket, some clothes, a water bottle, a small notebook with wrinkled pages. Marcus was 52 years old. His hair had turned gray at the sides. Lines covered his face like a map of hard times. His hands were rough and scarred from years of working in factories, but his eyes still held something bright, something that refused to die. He stopped walking when he saw it. The piano sat on the corner of Pine Street and 3rd Avenue. Someone had put it there 3 weeks ago. The city had a program that placed pianos on street corners. Anyone could play them. The paint on this piano was chipped. Some of the white keys had turned yellow with age, but it was still a piano. Marcus had walked past this piano every day for 3 weeks. Each time he slowed down. Each time he wanted to touch the keys. But fear always stopped him. Fear of what people would think. Fear of what they would say. Today felt different. Marcus did not know why. Maybe it was because the sun had come out after 5 days of rain. Maybe it was because he had dreamed about his mother last night. She had been singing in the dream. That old song she used to hum when he was small. He sat down on the wooden bench in front of the piano. His heart beat fast in his chest. His hands felt sweaty even in the cold air. He looked around. People walked past him. Some talked on phones. Some carried coffee cups. A few glanced at him and then looked away quickly. Marcus knew what they saw. A homeless man in dirty clothes. Someone who probably did not belong near something beautiful like a piano. He had been homeless for 3 years now. 3 long years of sleeping in shelters, of standing in line for food, of people looking through him like he was invisible. It had not always been this way. Marcus used to have a small apartment. He used to have a job at a furniture factory. He operated a large machine that cut wood into shapes. The pay was not great, but it was enough. He could buy food. He could pay rent. He had a life. Then the accident happened. A piece of the machine broke while Marcus was working. Metal flew at him. It hit his left shoulder and damaged the muscles badly. The doctors said he would heal, but it would take time. The factory said they could not keep him if he could not work. They let him go. Marcus tried to find other work, but his shoulder hurt too much for heavy lifting, and he had no special skills. He had dropped out of school when he was 16 to help his sick father. He could read and write, but that was all. No computer skills. No certificates. Nothing that made him special on a job application. The money ran out fast. First he lost his apartment. Then he lost everything else. He ended up on the streets with other people who had nowhere to go. But through all of this, Marcus had kept one dream alive. The dream of playing piano. It seemed like a strange dream for a man like him. He had never taken a music lesson in his life. His family had been too poor for such things. His father had worked 2 jobs just to keep food on the table. There was no money for piano lessons or any kind of music training. But Marcus had always loved piano music. When he was a small boy, maybe 5 or 6 years old, there was a church near his apartment building. Sometimes the door would be open. Piano music would float out into the street. Marcus would stop whatever he was doing and just listen. The sound made him feel something he could not explain. It made his chest feel warm. It made him forget about being hungry or cold. One day he had walked into that church. A woman with white hair sat at the piano. Her fingers moved across the keys like magic. The music filled the whole space. Marcus stood in the back and watched. He wanted to learn how to do that. He wanted to make that beautiful sound. But when he told his father about it, his father had laughed. Not a mean laugh, but a tired one. His father had put a hand on Marcus's shoulder and said, "Piano is for rich kids, son. Not for people like us. We work with our hands to survive. That is our life. That is what we do." Marcus had never forgotten those words. They had stayed in his head for 47 years. Every time he thought about music, he heard his father's voice. Not for people like us. Now Marcus sat at this street piano. His fingers hovered above the keys. They were shaking slightly. He did not know if it was from cold or fear or excitement. Maybe all 3. A teenager walked past him. She had bright blue hair and a phone in her hand. She glanced at Marcus and then did a double take. She slowed down. Then she held up her phone and started recording a video. Marcus saw her but pretended he did not. He knew what she was doing. He had seen it before. People love to record homeless people. They put the videos online for others to laugh at or feel sorry for. He wondered what caption she would write. Homeless man thinks he can play piano, maybe. Or, this is so sad. He almost got up and walked away. The old fear started to rise in his chest. But then he remembered his dream last night. His mother's face, her voice humming that melody. She had died when Marcus was 7 years old. Cancer had taken her quickly, but he still remembered her songs. Marcus took a deep breath. He placed his right hand on the keys. The plastic felt smooth and cool under his rough fingers. He pressed down on one key. A single note rang out. It was not perfectly in tune, but it was music. Real music. The sound made something break open inside Marcus's chest. Tears filled his eyes, but he blinked them back. He pressed another key, then another. He did not know what he was doing. He was just making sounds. But even random sounds on a piano felt like magic to him. The teenager with blue hair had moved closer. She was definitely recording now. Marcus could see other people starting to notice too. A man in a business suit slowed his walk. A woman with a baby stroller stopped across the street. Marcus's hands left the keys. He sat back. His heart pounded. That was enough for today. Just touching the keys. Just making a few sounds. That was a start. But as he started to stand up, an old woman walked up to the piano. She had white hair pulled back in a bun. She wore a long purple coat. She smiled at Marcus. Her smile was kind. It reached her eyes. "Are you going to play something?" she asked. Marcus shook his head. "I don't know how," he said quietly. His voice sounded rough. He did not talk much these days. "Everyone knows how to make music," the woman said. "You just have to let it out." She walked away before Marcus could respond. He watched her disappear into the crowd of people. Her words stayed with him. You just have to let it out. Marcus sat back down at the piano. His hands found the keys again. This time he tried to remember the melody his mother used to hum. He pressed keys slowly. Some sounded wrong. He tried different ones. He was searching for the right notes like someone searching for lost treasure. A small crowd had gathered now, maybe 10 or 12 people. They formed a half circle around the piano. Marcus could feel their eyes on him. Some looked curious. Some looked doubtful. Some looked like they were waiting for him to fail so they could laugh. The teenage girl with blue hair was still recording. Marcus could see her phone screen. She had typed a caption, "Homeless guy thinks he can play LOL." Those words should have hurt. They should have made Marcus stop. But something strange happened instead. They made him angry. Not a hot, violent anger. A cold, determined anger. An anger that said, "I will show you." Marcus did not care anymore what they thought. He pressed the keys harder. He tried to find the melody. It was somewhere in his head. He just needed to find it in the piano. His left hand joined his right hand. He made mistakes. He hit wrong notes. The sounds clashed and jangled. Some people in the crowd started to laugh. Others whispered to each other. Marcus heard fragments of their words. Poor guy. He has no idea what he's doing. Someone should stop him. It sounds terrible. This is embarrassing to watch. But Marcus did not stop. He kept searching for the music. His fingers moved clumsily across the keys. Years of factory work had made his hands strong but not graceful. They did not bend easily. They did not flow like that woman's hands in the church so many years ago. After maybe 5 minutes, Marcus stopped. His hands fell into his lap. He stared at the keys. He had not found the melody. He had only made noise. Ugly, clumsy noise. The crowd started to break up. People walked away, shaking their heads. The teenage girl stopped recording. She looked at her phone and giggled. Then she walked away too. Marcus sat alone at the piano. The sun had gone behind clouds again. The air felt colder. He felt stupid, foolish, an old homeless man who thought he could play piano. His father had been right all those years ago. Piano was not for people like him. He stood up slowly. His back hurt. Everything hurt these days.
He picked up his backpack and started to walk away from the piano.
But after 10 steps, he stopped. He turned around and looked back at it. The piano sat there on the corner, waiting. It did not care that he had played badly. It did not care that people had laughed. It was just a piano. It would let anyone touch its keys. Marcus made a decision right then. A decision that would change everything. He would come back tomorrow. And the day after that. And the day after that. He would learn to play this piano. It did not matter how long it took. It did not matter what people said. He would learn. He did not know it yet, but this was the moment his life began to shift. The moment when a dream that had been buried for 47 years started to dig its way back to the surface. Marcus walked back to the shelter where he slept. It was a large building that housed 50 homeless people every night. The beds were hard and narrow. The room smelled like sweat and old shoes. But it was warm and dry. That was something. He lay on his bed that night and stared at the ceiling. In his mind, he could still hear the piano keys. He could still feel them under his fingers. He closed his eyes and tried to imagine playing a real song. A song that people would want to hear. A song that would make them stop and listen instead of laugh and walk away. It seemed impossible. Marcus had no teacher. He had no piano to practice on except that street piano. He had rough, clumsy hands that hurt after just a few minutes of playing. He had never read music. He did not know anything about notes or chords or scales. But he had something else. He had time. Homeless people had lots of time. Time between meals at the shelter. Time waiting in lines. Time sitting on benches. Time that stretched out empty and endless. Marcus decided he would use that time. He would watch people play the street piano. He would listen carefully. He would try to understand how music worked. He would teach himself. It was a crazy plan. An impossible plan. But it was his plan. And for the first time in 3 years, Marcus Chen had something to hope for. Something to wake up for. Something that made him feel alive again. He fell asleep that night with piano music in his head. In his dream, his mother was there again. She was not sick anymore. She was young and healthy, and she was smiling at him. In the dream, Marcus was playing piano. Really playing, and the music was beautiful. Marcus went back to the street piano the next day. In the day after that, every morning he would sit at the bench and try to make music. His fingers were clumsy. The sounds he made were not beautiful, but he kept trying. Most people ignored him now. After the first few days, he was not interesting anymore. Just another homeless man sitting at the piano. Not playing real music, just making noise. People walked past without looking. That was fine with Marcus. He did not want an audience. He just wanted to learn. But learning from a street piano was hard. Marcus could only practice for short periods. Sometimes other people wanted to use the piano. Sometimes the weather was too cold or too rainy. Sometimes police officers told him to move along because he was staying in one place too long. Marcus needed more time with a piano. More time to figure out how the keys worked. Which notes sounded good together. How to make his rough hands move more smoothly. He started walking around the city looking for pianos. He found one in a hotel lobby, but security guards watched it closely. They did not like homeless people coming inside. Marcus would sit down and they would ask him to leave after just a few minutes. He found another piano in a church, but the church was only open certain hours, and people there looked at him with suspicious eyes, like he might steal something or cause trouble, so he did not stay long there either. Then one evening, Marcus discovered something that changed everything. He was walking down a side street near the university. The sun had already set. Streetlights cast orange pools of light on the sidewalk. Marcus was heading back to the shelter before it got too late. The shelter locked its doors at 9 o'clock. If you were not inside by then, you slept on the street. As he walked, he heard piano music. It was faint but clear. Someone was playing scales. Up and down, up and down. The same pattern over and over. Marcus followed the sound. It led him to a 3-story brick building. A sign above the door said Morrison School of Music. Large windows lined the second floor. Through one window, Marcus could see a young woman sitting at a grand piano. Her fingers moved quickly across the keys. She was practicing the same section of a song again and again. Marcus stood on the sidewalk and watched. He could not hear the music clearly from outside, but he could see her hands. He watched how her fingers curved, how her wrists stayed relaxed, how she used her whole arm for some notes. He stayed there for 30 minutes just watching. Then the young woman gathered her things and left the room. The light went out. Marcus started to walk away, but then he noticed that other rooms still had lights on. He moved along the building to see better. Through different windows, he could see different people practicing. A man playing violin, a teenage boy at another piano, a woman playing a cello. This building was full of music,
full of people learning.
and Marcus could watch them. He came back the next night, and the night after that. Every evening, he would stand outside the Morrison School of Music and watch people practice through the windows. He saw their mistakes. He saw them correct those mistakes. He saw their teachers point things out. He saw them try again and again until they got it right. Marcus learned by watching. He learned that curved fingers made a better sound. He learned that you had to relax your shoulders or they would hurt. He learned that music had patterns. The same patterns repeated in different ways. He started to understand things. Small things, but important things. One night, Marcus noticed a woman watching him. She was older, maybe 60 years old. She wore a gray uniform and carried a large trash bag. She was the janitor. Marcus got scared. He thought she might call the police, tell them a homeless man was lurking outside the building. He started to walk away quickly. "Wait," the woman called out. She had an accent. Spanish, maybe. Marcus stopped but did not turn around. The woman walked closer. "You're here every night," she said. "I see you watching through the windows." "I'm sorry," Marcus said. "I will go. I did not mean any harm. Are you learning?" the woman asked. Marcus was surprised by the question. He turned to look at her. She had kind eyes, tired eyes, but kind. "Yes," he said quietly. "I am trying to learn piano." The woman nodded slowly. She looked at Marcus for a long moment. Then she made a decision. "Come with me," she said. Marcus hesitated. This could be a trick. Maybe she was taking him to security. But something in her face made him trust her. He followed her to a side door of the building. The woman unlocked the door. "My name is Rosa," she said. "I clean this building every night. I'm Marcus." Rosa led him inside. The hallway smelled like floor cleaner. Their footsteps echoed on the tile floor. They walked past dark classrooms, past trophy cases filled with awards, past photos of smiling students. Rosa stopped at a door marked Storage. She pulled out a ring of keys and unlocked it. She turned on the light. The room was full of old instruments, broken music stands, stacks of sheet music, chairs with wobbly legs, and in the corner, covered with a dusty cloth, was a keyboard. Rosa pulled off the cloth. Dust flew into the air. The keyboard was old. Some of the keys were chipped, but it had a power cord. "This broke 5 years ago," Rosa said. "Some keys don't make sound, but most of them work. The school was going to throw it away. I kept it in case someone could fix it." She plugged it in. A small red light came on. She pressed a key. A note sounded. Weak but clear. She pressed another. Silence. That key was dead. She pressed a third. Another note sounded. Rosa turned to Marcus. "You can practice here," she said. "I start work at 7 o'clock. I finish at 11. You can come after the students leave. Around 8 o'clock, I will leave the side door unlocked for you, but you must leave by 10:30. Before I lock up." Marcus could not believe what he was hearing. "Why?" he asked. "Why would you do this for me?" Rosa smiled sadly. "My son loved music," she said. "He played guitar. He wanted to be a musician, but he died when he was 19. Car accident." She touched the keyboard gently. "When I see someone who really wants to learn, I think of him. I think he would want me to help." Marcus felt tears in his eyes. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you so much. But there are rules," Rosa said firmly. "You cannot steal anything. You cannot break anything. You must leave when I tell you. And you must help me sometimes. Carry trash bags. Move heavy things. Can you do this?" "Yes," Marcus said. "I promise. I will help you. I will follow every rule." That night, Marcus practiced on the broken keyboard for 2 hours. His fingers stumbled over the keys. Many of the sounds were wrong because of the broken keys. But he was learning. Really learning. He came back the next night, and every night after that, Rosa let him in through the side door. Marcus would go to the storage room and practice. Then he would help Rosa carry trash bags to the dumpster. He would help her move chairs. Whatever she needed. Slowly, Marcus began to improve. He learned which keys on the keyboard were broken. He learned to avoid them. He practiced scales like he had seen the students do. Up and down. Up and down. His fingers started to remember where to go. He also kept watching through the windows before Rosa let him in. He watched beginner students in their lessons. He listened to what their teachers told them. Keep your wrist up. Count the rhythm. Slower, focus on accuracy first. He learned from every word. Marcus started to understand how music worked. Notes had names. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Then it started over again. Some notes were black keys. Some were white keys. When you played certain notes together, they sounded good. Those were chords. Other combinations sounded bad. Those were mistakes. Music had rules. But it also had feeling. You could play the same notes in different ways. Soft or loud, fast or slow, happy or sad. The feeling came from how you pressed the keys. Marcus practiced every night. His fingers hurt. His back hurt from sitting on an old stool in the storage room. But he did not care. He was learning to play piano. The dream that had seemed impossible was becoming real. The other homeless people at the shelter thought Marcus was crazy. They would ask him where he went every night. He told them he was learning piano. They laughed. Piano? Said a man named Eddie. Eddie was 58 and had been on the streets for 10 years. What good is piano going to do you? You need a job, man, not piano. Piano is for rich people, said another man called Tom. People like us don't play piano. Marcus heard his father's old words in their voices, not for people like us. But he did not argue with them. He just kept going to his secret practice sessions. 2 months passed. Then 3, then 4. Marcus's fingers were getting stronger, more flexible. He could play simple melodies now. Nothing fancy, nothing impressive, but real songs. Songs he recognized. He learned to play Mary Had a Little Lamb, then Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Children's songs, simple songs, but every song he learned made him proud. Every song proved that he could do this. Rosa would sometimes stop her cleaning work to listen. She would stand in the doorway of the storage room and smile. Good, she would say. You are getting better. Marcus began to notice something strange. When he played piano, he forgot about being homeless. He forgot about being hungry. He forgot about the cold nights and the hard shelter beds. For those 2 hours in the storage room, he was just a man learning to play music. Nothing else mattered. He also started to feel something he had not felt in years. Purpose. He had a reason to wake up each day, a reason to stay sober. Some of the other homeless men drank or used drugs to forget their pain. Marcus understood why. Life on the streets was hard. Forgetting seemed easier than facing it. But Marcus did not want to forget anymore. He wanted to remember. He wanted to improve. He wanted to learn. The piano gave him that. One night, about 5 months after he started practicing, something important happened. Marcus was working on a harder song, a folk melody he remembered from somewhere. He could not remember where he had heard it. Maybe on the radio years ago, maybe in a movie, but it was stuck in his head. He had been trying to figure out the notes for 2 weeks, getting close but not quite right. His fingers kept hitting wrong keys. The melody would start to sound correct and then fall apart. On this night, something clicked. His fingers found the right pattern. The melody came out clear and pure. Every note was correct. Marcus played it through once. Then again, then a third time. It was right. He had figured it out. Rosa heard it from the hallway. She came to the storage room door. She stood there listening with tears in her eyes. When Marcus finished, she clapped slowly. Beautiful, she said. That was beautiful. Marcus looked at his hands. They were still rough and scarred from factory work. But now they could make music. Real music. He felt something huge swell in his chest. Pride. Joy. Accomplishment. I did it, he said quietly. I really did it. Yes, Rosa said. You did. That night, Marcus walked back to the shelter feeling like he was floating. He had learned a real song. A song that sounded good. A song that made Rosa cry happy tears. He was not just banging on keys anymore. He was making music. But he knew this was just the beginning. The broken keyboard in the storage room was good for practice, but it was limited. Many keys did not work. The sound was weak and tinny. If Marcus wanted to really learn, he needed a real piano. The street piano was still there on the corner. Marcus went there sometimes during the day. He would sit and try to practice what he learned at night. But there were problems. The street piano was always slightly out of tune. The weather affected the keys. Rain made them sticky. Cold made them stiff. And there were always interruptions. Other people wanted to play. Police told him to move. Drunk people bothered him. Teenagers made fun of him. It was hard to focus. Hard to really practice. Marcus needed more. He needed better. But he did not know how to get it. He was still homeless, still sleeping in shelters, still eating free meals from churches. He had no money, no resources, nothing to offer anyone. All he had was determination, and the secret practice sessions with Rosa, and the dream that refused to die. Winter came to Seattle. The cold rain turned to cold snow. Many homeless people got sick. The shelters were more crowded than usual, everyone trying to escape the brutal cold outside. Marcus kept going to the Morrison School of Music, even when snow soaked through his worn shoes, even when his fingers were so cold they could barely move. He went every night. He practiced every night. He was getting better and better. Rosa worried about him. "You should rest," she said. "You will get sick in this weather." But Marcus could not rest. He felt like if he stopped, he would lose everything he had gained, like the music would slip away from him. So he pushed forward through the winter, through the cold and the snow and the dark nights, and he kept improving. His rough hands learned to play with more grace, more speed, more feeling. He was teaching himself to play piano, against all odds. Despite everything, he was doing it. The other homeless people stopped laughing at him. They saw how serious he was, how dedicated. Some of them started asking him about it. "Do you really think you can become a piano player?" Eddie asked one night at the shelter. Marcus thought about the question. "I don't know," he said honestly. "But I am a piano player. I play every day. That makes me a piano player." Eddie shook his head. "You know what I mean. A real piano player. Someone who gets paid. Someone who performs." Marcus did not have an answer for that. He did not know if he could ever be that kind of piano player. Maybe his father had been right. Maybe piano really was not for people like him. But it did not matter. Marcus played piano because it made him feel alive, because it gave him purpose, because when his fingers touched the keys, he was not a homeless man anymore. He was a musician, even if no one else saw it yet, even if no one else believed it. He saw it, he believed it. And that was enough. For now, that was enough. Spring came slowly to Seattle. The snow melted into rain. The rain fell for weeks. But eventually, the sun started to peek through the clouds more often. The air got warmer. Flowers began to grow in the city parks. Marcus had been practicing piano for almost 8 months now. His playing had improved dramatically. He could play dozens of songs. Some simple, some more complex. His fingers moved with confidence now. They knew where to go, what to press, how to create the sounds he wanted. But Marcus still had not played in public. Not really. He would sit at the street piano sometimes and practice. But he always played quietly, carefully. He did not want to attract attention. He was not ready for that yet. Rosa encouraged him to play for people. "You are good now," she told him. People should hear you, but Marcus was scared. What if people laughed? What if they said he was terrible? What if they reminded him that he was just a homeless man who should not be playing piano? Then something happened that changed everything. A local television station was doing a news story about the city's street pianos. It was a light, happy story, something to make people smile. The reporter was a young woman named Jennifer Kim. She had bright red lipstick and perfect hair. She talked in an excited voice about how the pianos brought music and joy to the streets. The camera crew filmed different pianos around the city. They showed children playing. They showed tourists posing for photos. They showed a businessman playing during his lunch break. And they showed Marcus. Marcus did not know they were filming him. He was sitting at the 3rd Avenue piano one afternoon. He was practicing a song quietly. His eyes were closed. He was focused on getting the notes right. The camera filmed him for about 30 seconds. In the news story that aired that night, they showed 10 seconds of Marcus at the piano. The reporter's voice said, "The pianos have become beloved street fixtures, attracting everyone from trained musicians to curious beginners." Marcus did not see the news story. He did not own a television. But other people saw it, and one of those people was Catherine Morrison. Catherine Morrison was the owner and director of the Morrison School of Music. Yes, the same building where Marcus practiced every night. But Catherine did not know about Marcus. She did not know that Rosa let him in. She did not know that he practiced in the storage room. Catherine was 56 years old. She had taught piano for 30 years. She came from a family of classical musicians. Her father had been a concert pianist. Her mother had played violin in a symphony orchestra. Music was in her blood. It was her whole life. Catherine believed strongly in proper musical training. She believed that piano was difficult, that it took years of lessons with qualified teachers, that natural talent mattered, that dedication and discipline were essential. She did not believe that just anyone could learn to play piano well, especially not someone who started late in life, especially not someone who taught themselves. Catherine saw the news story about the street pianos. She thought it was silly. Street pianos, she muttered to her husband, as if banging on outdoor pianos makes someone a musician. But the story gave her an idea. Good publicity for her school. She called the news station and offered to do a follow-up story. She would go to one of the street pianos and give free advice to anyone who wanted tips. The station loved the idea. They scheduled the filming for the following Saturday morning. The location would be the 3rd Avenue piano, the same piano where Marcus practiced. Saturday morning came. Marcus did not know about the news filming. He went to the piano like he did every morning. The weather was beautiful, sunny and warm, spring at its best. Marcus sat at the piano bench. He had been working on a new song, something more challenging than his usual pieces. It was a classical melody. He had heard it in one of the practice rooms at the Morrison School. A student had been playing it. The melody was beautiful and sad at the same time. It made Marcus think of his mother. He had been trying to learn it for 3 weeks, figuring out the notes by memory, by trial and error. His fingers were not quite fast enough yet, and there was one section that gave him trouble. But he was getting closer. Marcus positioned his hands over the keys. He started to play slowly, very slowly, working through each note carefully. He did not notice the television van pull up. He did not see the camera crew set up their equipment. He did not hear the reporter talking to Catherine Morrison nearby. Catherine stood next to the piano. She wore an expensive black coat and pearl earrings. Her hair was styled perfectly. She looked elegant and professional. The camera was filming her. "Piano is a beautiful instrument," Catherine said to the camera, "but it requires proper training. You cannot simply sit down and expect to play well. It takes years of study, years of practice with a qualified instructor." That is when she noticed Marcus. He sat at the piano, hunched over the keys. His jacket was old and patched. His hair needed cutting. His face had not been shaved in days. He was playing very slowly, hitting wrong notes. Starting over. Trying again, Catherine frowned. This was not good for her segment. A homeless man struggling with a piano. It looked sad. Pathetic, even. She walked closer to Marcus. The camera followed her. Marcus did not see them yet. He was focused on the keys, trying to remember the difficult section. His fingers hit a wrong note. He stopped. Started again. Another wrong note. He sighed in frustration. "Excuse me," Catherine said. Marcus jumped. He turned and saw Catherine, saw the camera, saw the reporter. His face went red. He started to stand up. "I'm sorry," he said quickly. "Were you filming?" "I will move." "Wait," Catherine said. She had an idea. This could actually work for her segment. A teaching moment. "Are you trying to learn piano?" Marcus hesitated. He felt embarrassed. All these people staring at him. The camera pointing at him. "Yes," he said quietly. "I practice sometimes." "How long have you been playing?" Catherine asked. Her voice was friendly, but there was something else underneath. Something that made Marcus uncomfortable. "About 8 months." "And who is your teacher?" "I don't have a teacher." "I am teaching myself." Catherine nodded slowly. She looked at the camera and then back at Marcus. "That is very admirable," she said. But the way she said it made it sound like she meant the opposite. "Piano is difficult to learn on your own. Would you like some advice?" Marcus wanted to say no. Wanted to grab his backpack and run. But all these people were watching. The camera was recording. He could not be rude. "Okay," he said. "Show me middle C," Catherine said. Marcus looked at the keys. Middle C, he had learned that. He knew that. His finger moved to the key and pressed it. "Good," Catherine said. "Now play a C major scale for me." Marcus's mind went blank. C major scale? He knew scales. He practiced them. But which one was C major? He pressed a key, then another. He was trying to figure it out, but his fingers were shaking now. He was too nervous. He played something. It sounded wrong. He knew it was wrong as soon as he played it. Catherine smiled. But it was not a kind smile. "That is not quite right," she said. She turned to the camera. "This is why proper instruction is so important. Piano is not something you can just pick up on your own." She looked back at Marcus. "How much time do you spend practicing each day?" "About 2 hours," Marcus said. "Sometimes more." 2 hours a day for 8 months, Catherine said. She was talking to the camera now, not to Marcus, and still struggling with basic scales. "You see, piano requires not just practice, but proper practice, correct technique, professional guidance." She turned back to Marcus. Her voice was softer now, almost gentle. But her words were not gentle. "I do not mean to discourage you, but you should understand that some people will never play piano well, no matter how long they sit here. It takes years of proper training. It takes natural ability. It takes starting young when your hands and mind are flexible." She paused. Then she said the words that would change everything. "Some people simply are not meant to be pianists, and that is okay. We all have different talents." Marcus felt like she had slapped him. His face burned with shame. His eyes stung with tears, but he refused to cry. Not in front of these people. Not on camera. "Thank you for your time," Catherine said pleasantly. She walked back to the reporter to continue the segment. Marcus sat frozen at the piano. He wanted to leave, but his legs would not move. He stared at the keys. All those hours of practice, all those nights in the storage room with Rosa, all those dreams. And this woman had just told him it was pointless, that he would never be good enough, that he was not meant to be a pianist. A small crowd had gathered to watch the filming. Some people looked at Marcus with pity. Others whispered to each other. A teenager held up his phone, recording everything. Finally, Marcus found the strength to stand. He picked up his backpack. He walked away from the piano, away from the camera, away from the crowd. He walked fast, looking at the ground. His chest felt tight. His throat felt thick. He heard voices behind him. That was harsh. She didn't have to say it like that. Poor guy. But she's right, though. He probably will never be any good. Marcus walked for 6 blocks before he stopped. He found a bench in a small park. He sat down and put his face in his hands. He did not cry. He just sat there, breathing hard, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Maybe Catherine Morrison was right. Maybe he was fooling himself. Maybe piano really was not for people like him. He was 52 years old, homeless, uneducated, no talent, no training. What had made him think he could learn to play piano? For the first time in 8 months, Marcus thought about giving up, about stopping his nightly practice sessions, about forgetting the whole stupid dream. It would be easier, less painful, less embarrassing. But then he thought about Rosa, how she unlocked the door for him every night, how she smiled when she heard him play, how she had told him about her son who loved music. He thought about the broken keyboard in the storage room, how it had become his friend, his teacher, his escape from the hardness of life. He thought about the feeling he got when he played, when his fingers found the right notes, when a melody came together, when he forgot about being homeless and was just a person making music. Could he really give that up? Could he let Catherine Morrison's words destroy the one thing that made his life feel meaningful? Marcus sat on that bench for 2 hours. People walked past him. Life went on around him. But he sat still, thinking, deciding. Finally, he stood up. He knew what he had to do. He would not give up. He would keep practicing. He would keep learning. He would prove Catherine Morrison wrong, not for her, not to change her mind, but for himself. To prove to himself that he could do this, that people like him could learn piano, that it was not too late, that he was not hopeless. Marcus walked to the 3rd Avenue piano. The news crew was gone. The crowd had dispersed. The piano sat alone on the corner, waiting. Marcus sat down at the bench. His hands found the keys, and he began to play the same classical melody he had been working on, the one that reminded him of his mother. This time he did not play quietly. He did not play carefully. He played with feeling, with passion, with defiance. He made mistakes, but he did not stop. He pushed through them. He kept playing. A few people stopped to listen. They stood at a distance. They did not say anything. They just listened. Marcus played the melody all the way through. It was not perfect. But it was music. Real music. Music that he had taught himself. Music that came from his rough hands and his determined heart. When he finished, a woman in the small crowd clapped. Then others joined in. Just a few people. Just a quiet applause. But it was applause. Marcus looked up at them. One woman smiled at him. She gave him a thumbs up. "That was beautiful," she called out. Marcus felt something warm spread through his chest. Pride, determination, hope. He turned back to the piano. And he began to play again. That evening, Marcus went to the Morrison School of Music as usual. Rosa let him in. He told her what had happened with Catherine Morrison. Rosa's face darkened with anger. "That is my boss," she said. "And she was wrong to speak to you that way." "Maybe she was right, though," Marcus said. "Maybe I am wasting my time." Rosa grabbed his shoulders and looked him in the eye. "My son practiced guitar every day for 5 years before he was good enough to play at a small cafe." 5 years. And he had a teacher. "You have been teaching yourself for 8 months. And you are already playing real music? You are not wasting your time. You are doing something incredible." Her words helped. Marcus went to the storage room and practiced for 3 hours that night. Longer than usual. He practiced until his fingers hurt, until his back ached, until he was exhausted, but he had made a decision. He would work harder, practice more, get better, and someday, somehow, he would show people that they were wrong about him. The challenge had been made, not by Catherine Morrison directly, but by her words, by her judgment, by her dismissal, and Marcus Chen accepted that challenge. The video went viral the next day, not the official news segment. Something else. Something more powerful. The teenager who had been recording on his phone had posted the whole interaction. The full video showed Catherine Morrison telling Marcus he would never be good enough. It showed the look on Marcus's face. The shame. The hurt, but the video did not end there. The teenager had kept recording. He had followed Marcus when he walked away. And then he had filmed Marcus coming back to the piano. He filmed Marcus sitting down and playing with passion and determination. He filmed the small crowd applauding. The teenager added a caption. "Music teacher destroys homeless man's dream, but he doesn't give up. This is what courage looks like." Within 24 hours, the video had been viewed 3 million times. People shared it across social media. They commented. They argued. They took sides. Some people defended Catherine Morrison. They said she was just being honest. That the world was competitive. That not everyone could be a musician. Better to tell people the truth than let them waste their time on false hope. But most people were angry at Catherine. They said she was cruel, elitist, that she had no right to crush someone's dream. That music should be for everyone, not just people who could afford expensive lessons. Marcus did not know about any of this. He did not use social media. He did not own a phone. He was living his life the same as always, going to the street piano during the day, practicing at the Morrison School at night, trying to get better. Rosa told him about the video. She showed him on her phone one evening. Marcus watched it in silence. Seeing himself on the screen felt strange. Like watching a different person. "Everyone is talking about you," Rosa said. "People are angry at my boss. They are saying terrible things about her." Marcus felt uncomfortable. "I did not want this," he said. "I did not want to cause trouble." "You did not cause trouble," Rosa said firmly. "You just wanted to learn piano. She is the one who judged you." The video kept spreading. News outlets picked up the story. They wrote articles. "Homeless man's piano dream goes viral after music teacher says he will never succeed." "Street pianist proves teachers wrong." "The man who won't give up." Reporters tried to find Marcus, but he was hard to track down. He moved between different shelters. He did not stay in one place. And he avoided cameras now after what happened with Catherine. Catherine Morrison was facing a storm of criticism. Her school's social media pages filled with angry comments. People called her heartless, mean, out of touch. Some people even started protesting outside her school. Not many people. Maybe 10 or 15, but enough to be embarrassing. Catherine released a statement trying to explain. She said she had been taken out of context, that she believed everyone should enjoy music, that she only meant to set realistic expectations. But her words did not help. People had already decided she was the villain of this story. Meanwhile, something else was happening. People were looking for Marcus. They wanted to hear him play. They wanted to support him. Someone started a page to raise money for piano lessons for Marcus. Within a week, they had raised $4,000. But Marcus still did not know about most of this. He was focused on practicing, on getting better, on proving to himself that he could do this. Then one day, about 2 weeks after the video went viral, a man came to the 3rd Avenue piano while Marcus was practicing. The man was young, maybe 30 years old. He had a camera around his neck. He wore jeans and a t-shirt. "Are you Marcus Chen?" the man asked. Marcus stopped playing. He felt nervous. "Yes," he said cautiously. "My name is David Park. I am a documentary filmmaker. I have been looking for you." Marcus started to stand up. "I don't want to be in any more videos." "Wait, please," David said. "Just listen for a minute. You don't have to decide anything right now." Marcus hesitated. Then he sat back down. David sat on the bench next to him. "I saw the video of you," he said. "The one with the music teacher. Do you know it got over 10 million views now?" Marcus shook his head. 10 million seemed impossible. 10 million people had seen his shame, his failure. "People are inspired by you," David continued. "They want to know your story. They want to hear you play. I think you should give a real performance. A concert. Show everyone what you can do." "I'm not ready for that," Marcus said quickly. "I'm not good enough." "Maybe not good enough for Carnegie Hall," David said. "But good enough for a street corner? Good enough to share music with people who want to hear it?" "I think you are." Marcus looked at his hands. They were still rough and scarred. "But they could make music now. Real music." "I don't know," he said. "Here's what I'm thinking," David said. "We announce that you will perform here at this piano next Saturday morning. We let people know. Whoever wants to come can come. You play whatever you want to play. I will film it. Not to embarrass you, not to make money, just to document your journey." "What if I mess up?" Marcus asked. "What if I prove Catherine Morrison was right?" "Then you mess up," David said. "But you will have tried. And trying is what matters. Besides, I've been watching you play for the last hour. You are better than you think." Marcus did not answer right away. The idea terrified him. Playing in front of a real crowd. On purpose. What if everyone laughed? What if no one came? What if he froze and could not play at all? But another part of him wanted to do it. Wanted to face his fear. Wanted to show people that he was a real piano player. Even if he was not perfect, even if he was not trained, he could make music. And music mattered. "Okay," Marcus said finally. "I will do it. But only if I can choose what to play." "Of course," David said. "It is your performance." They set the date. Saturday morning, 9 o'clock. The 3rd Avenue piano. David spread the word through social media. He posted about Marcus's upcoming performance. He shared clips of Marcus playing. He told Marcus's story, how he had taught himself, how he practiced every night, how he refused to give up after being told he would never be good enough. The response was overwhelming. Thousands of people said they would come. They said they would support Marcus. They said they believed in him. Marcus spent the week preparing. He practiced more than ever. Rosa let him stay in the storage room for extra hours. She brought him food. She encouraged him. She became like a mother to him. Marcus decided what he would play. Not the classical piece that had been giving him trouble. Not scales or exercises. He would play the melody his mother used to hum. The one from his dreams. He had figured out all the notes months ago. He knew it by heart. It was simple but beautiful. It was personal. It was his Saturday morning arrived. Marcus barely slept the night before. He was too nervous, too excited, too scared. He walked to the 3rd Avenue piano at 8:30. The sun was shining. The air was cool and fresh. A perfect spring morning. But when Marcus turned the corner onto 3rd Avenue, he stopped in shock. There were people everywhere. Hundreds of people. Maybe more. They filled the sidewalk. They spilled into the street. Police had blocked off the road to make room. Marcus's first instinct was to run. This was too much. Too many people. He could not do this. But then he saw Rosa. She stood near the piano waving at him. She had tears in her eyes, but she was smiling. Next to her stood David with his camera. Marcus walked slowly toward the piano. The crowd parted to let him through. Some people clapped. Some said encouraging words. "You can do this. We believe in you." Play your heart out. Marcus reached the piano. His hands were shaking. His heart pounded in his chest like a drum. He looked at all the faces. Hundreds of strangers. All here to see him. To hear him. Then he saw her. Catherine Morrison. She stood at the edge of the crowd. She wore sunglasses, but Marcus recognized her. Their eyes met for a moment. She looked uncomfortable. Embarrassed, maybe. But she was here. Marcus sat down at the bench. He took a deep breath. He placed his hands on the keys. They felt familiar now, like old friends. He closed his eyes. For a moment, everything was quiet. The crowd stopped moving. People held their breath. Phones were raised, recording, then it started to rain. Just a light rain. Drops fell from the sky even though the sun was still shining. A sun shower. People in the crowd opened umbrellas. But instead of leaving, they moved closer. They held their umbrellas over Marcus and the piano, protecting him, protecting the music. Marcus opened his eyes. He saw the umbrellas above him. He saw the faces watching him, waiting, hoping, believing, and he began to play. The first notes were soft, gentle. Marcus played the melody his mother used to hum, the one he remembered from when he was 5 years old, before she got sick, before she died. When she would hold him and sing and everything felt safe. His fingers moved across the keys. Not perfectly. He hit a wrong note in the second measure. But he did not stop. He kept playing. He let the music flow through him. The melody was simple. Not complex like classical music. Not fast or showy. Just honest, just real. The sound of memory. The sound of love. The sound of not giving up. As Marcus played, something happened to his fear. It did not disappear completely, but it transformed. It became part of the music. The nervousness made his playing more raw, more emotional, more real. People in the crowd stopped recording on their phones. They just listened. Some closed their eyes. Some swayed gently. Some had tears on their faces. Rosa was crying openly now. She thought of her son, how he had loved music, how he would have loved this moment. Even Catherine Morrison lowered her sunglasses. She listened with her head tilted. Her face showed surprise. This was not what she expected. This was not the fumbling beginner she had dismissed 2 weeks ago. This was someone who understood music. Maybe not technically perfect. Maybe not trained. But someone who felt music in their soul. Marcus reached the difficult part of the melody. The part that had always given him trouble. His fingers hesitated for just a second. But then they found the right keys. The notes came out clear and true. He had done it. He had conquered the part that always defeated him. As he played, Marcus thought about his journey. The years of believing his father was right. That piano was not for people like him. The years of working in factories, of losing everything, of ending up on the streets, but also the moment he decided to try. The first time he touched the piano keys, meeting Rosa, the broken keyboard in the storage room. The hundreds of hours of practice, the wrong notes and the right notes, the failures and the tiny victories, all of it had led to this moment. This performance, this proof that he was a piano player, not despite being homeless, not despite having no training, but because he refused to let anyone tell him what he could not do. Marcus played the final notes of the melody. They hung in the air for a moment. Then silence, complete silence. For 2 heartbeats, no one moved, no one spoke. Then the applause started. Loud, thunderous, people clapped and cheered. Some whistled. Some shouted encouragement. The noise was almost overwhelming. Marcus lifted his hands from the keys. He looked at the crowd. He saw hundreds of faces smiling at him, cheering for him, celebrating him. He had done it. He had really done it. David was filming everything with tears streaming down his face. He had captured it all. The rain, the umbrellas, the music. The moment when a homeless man proved that dreams do not care about circumstances. Rosa pushed through the crowd and hugged Marcus. Your mother would be so proud, she whispered in his ear. People lined up to shake Marcus's hand, to thank him, to tell him he inspired them. An old woman told him she had always wanted to learn piano, but thought she was too old. Now I am going to try, she said. A young man told Marcus he had been depressed, thinking about giving up on life. Your video saved me, he said. If you could keep going, I could keep going. Marcus did not know what to say to these people. He just nodded and said thank you. He felt overwhelmed, amazed, grateful. Catherine Morrison waited until the crowd thinned. Then she approached Marcus. She looked small, humbled. "I owe you an apology," she said. "I was wrong. Wrong about you. Wrong about what I said. You have something that cannot be taught. You have passion, heart, and those things matter more than technique." Marcus looked at her. He could be angry. He could reject her apology. But what was the point? Anger would not help him, would not make him a better piano player. "Thank you," he said simply. "Your words hurt me, but they also made me work harder. So maybe in a way you helped me." Catherine smiled sadly. "You are very gracious, more gracious than I deserve." She pulled out a business card. "If you ever want real lessons, come to my school, no charge. It would be an honor to teach you." Marcus took the card. He did not know if he would use it, but he appreciated the gesture. As the crowd finally dispersed, Marcus sat alone at the piano one more time. The rain had stopped. The sun felt warm on his face. He played the melody again, softer this time, just for himself. He was a piano player, a real piano player, not because someone gave him permission, not because he had a certificate or a degree, but because he played piano, because he loved it, because he had worked for it, and no one could take that away from him. The video of Marcus's performance reached 23 million views in the first 3 days. It played on news stations across the country. It was shared in dozens of languages. People around the world watched a homeless man play piano in the rain and felt something stir inside them. Marcus became famous overnight, but famous in a way he never expected and did not particularly want. Reporters tried to interview him. People recognized him on the street. Social media pages were created in his honor. All of it felt strange and uncomfortable. Marcus just wanted to play piano. That was all he had ever wanted. But now his life was complicated by attention he did not ask for. The money that people had raised for his piano lessons had grown to $18,000. Strangers kept donating. They wanted to help him, support him, be part of his story. David, the documentary filmmaker, became Marcus's unofficial manager. He helped Marcus navigate all the attention. He screened interview requests. He made sure people were not trying to exploit Marcus. "You could make money from this," David told Marcus one day. "People would pay to see you perform. You could record music. You could do a lot of things." But Marcus was not interested in becoming a celebrity. "I just want to keep learning," he said. "I just want to play piano." Still, Marcus's life was changing whether he wanted it to or not. People offered him help, real help. Not just money, but opportunities. A man named Gerald Chu owned a small restaurant called the Golden Lotus. It served Chinese and Vietnamese food. Gerald had watched Marcus's performance video 5 times. Each time he cried. The video reminded him of his own father, a man who had immigrated to America with nothing and worked his whole life washing dishes in restaurants. Gerald went looking for Marcus. He found him at the 3rd Avenue piano one afternoon. Marcus was practicing a new song, something jazzy that he had heard playing from a car radio. "Excuse me," Gerald said. "Are you Marcus Chen?" Marcus looked up. He was wary now of people approaching him. Everyone wanted something. An interview, a photo, a piece of his story. "Yes," he said carefully. "My name is Gerald. I own a restaurant a few blocks from here. I need someone to wash dishes and help with prep work. I am offering you a job. If you want it." Marcus stared at him. A job, a real job. He had not had one in 3 years. "Why me?" he asked. "Because I am famous now?" "No," Gerald said honestly. "Well, maybe that is part of it. I saw your video, but I am offering you a job because I see something in you. I see someone who works hard, who does not give up, who has dignity even when life is difficult. Those are the kind of people I want working in my restaurant." Marcus felt tears in his eyes. A job meant money. Money meant he could rent a room. Maybe even a small apartment eventually. Money meant he would not have to sleep in shelters anymore. Would not have to stand in food lines. "Yes," Marcus said. "Yes, I want the job. When can I start?" "Monday morning, 6 o'clock. They shook hands. Marcus felt like he could float. A job. After 3 years, he finally had a job. The Golden Lotus was a small restaurant. Only 15 tables. But the food was good and the customers were loyal. Gerald ran it with his wife Lynn and their daughter Amy, who was in college. Marcus started work on Monday. The job was simple. Wash dishes. Keep the kitchen clean. Help prepare vegetables. It was not glamorous work. His hands stayed wet and wrinkled most of the day. The kitchen was hot. The hours were long, but Marcus loved it. He loved having a purpose. He loved earning money honestly. He loved being part of something. A team, a business, a place where he belonged. Gerald paid him $12 an hour. Not much, but enough. Marcus was careful with his money. He saved every penny he could. Within 3 weeks, he had enough to rent a small room in a boarding house. It was tiny, barely big enough for a bed and a small table. The bathroom was shared with 5 other people. But it was his. His own space, his own door that locked, his own place to sleep. Marcus cried the first night he spent in that room. Tears of relief, of gratitude, of hope. He had a job. He had a home. He was not homeless anymore. But the best part came a month after Marcus started working at the Golden Lotus. Gerald approached him one evening after the dinner rush. "Marcus, I have been thinking," Gerald said. "We get busy on Friday and Saturday nights. People wait a long time for tables. What if we had live music, piano music, to make the waiting more pleasant? Would you be interested?" Marcus's heart jumped. "Play piano here? In the restaurant? Why not? I saw you play. You are good, and people know who you are. Some customers would come just to hear you. It would be good for business. I would pay you extra, $20 for each night you play, plus tips." Marcus could hardly believe it. Playing piano, getting paid for it. This was more than he had ever dreamed. "Yes," he said. "Absolutely yes." Gerald bought a used upright piano. Nothing fancy. But it was in tune and all the keys worked. They put it in the corner of the restaurant near the waiting area. Marcus played his first night the following Friday. He was nervous. More nervous than during his street performance. This was different. These were people eating dinner. People who expected good music. What if he was not good enough? But as soon as his fingers touched the keys, his nerves settled. He played the melody his mother used to hum. Then he played other songs he had learned. Simple folk tunes, jazz standards, popular songs that people recognized. The customers loved it. They clapped after each song. Some came up during their meal to compliment him. One elderly couple said it was the best dining experience they had had in years. Not because of the food, though the food was excellent, but because of the music, because of the atmosphere, because of Marcus. Word spread quickly. The Golden Lotus became known as the restaurant with the homeless piano player. Except Marcus was not homeless anymore. But people still called him that. The title stuck to him like a shadow. More customers came. Gerald had to turn people away on weekends. The restaurant was full every Friday and Saturday, all because people wanted to hear Marcus play. Marcus played every Friday and Saturday night. He also kept practicing. He accepted Catherine Morrison's offer of free lessons. He went to her school twice a week. Catherine taught him music theory, proper technique, how to read sheet music, all the things he had been missing. Catherine was different now, humbler, kinder. She treated Marcus with respect. She learned from him even as she taught him. She learned that passion could make up for a lot. That music lived in the heart before it lived in the hands. 6 months passed, then 9, then a year. Marcus's life was completely transformed. He had a steady job. He had a home. He had piano lessons with one of the best teachers in the city. He played public performances every week. He was saving money, but more than that, Marcus had purpose. He had joy. He had something to work toward. He was still learning, still improving, still discovering new things about music every day. People often asked Marcus about his success, about how he went from homeless to famous, about what his secret was. "I did not give up," he always said. "That is all. I just did not give up." But David, who had become Marcus's close friend, knew it was more than that. It was about believing in yourself when no one else did. It was about finding beauty in hardship. It was about refusing to let circumstances define you. David's documentary about Marcus was finally finished. He called it The Echo of Tomorrow. It premiered at a small film festival in Seattle. The theater was packed. People stood in the aisles. The documentary told Marcus's whole story. From the first day at the street piano, to the performance in the rain to his new life at the Golden Lotus. At the end of the screening, there was not a dry eye in the theater. When the lights came up, people stood and clapped for 5 minutes. Marcus sat in the back row, embarrassed by the attention but also moved by it. After the screening, a young woman approached Marcus. She was maybe 20 years old. She had tears on her face. "Thank you," she said. "I have been living in my car for 4 months. I lost my job. I lost everything. I was thinking about giving up, but your story made me believe I can get through this. If you can learn piano while homeless, I can get my life back together." Marcus hugged her. "You can," he said. "You absolutely can. Do not give up. Keep fighting." That was the moment Marcus understood the real impact of his story. It was not about piano. Not really. It was about hope. It was about showing people that change was possible, that dreams were possible, that you could fall down and get back up, that circumstances did not have to be permanent. Marcus started going back to the Third Avenue piano every Sunday morning. Not to practice, not to perform, but to teach. He offered free lessons to anyone who wanted to learn. Homeless people, kids from poor families, anyone who could not afford lessons. His students were not always good. Some had no natural talent. Some struggled with even basic songs, but Marcus was patient with them, more patient than any trained teacher would be, because he understood. He knew what it felt like to struggle, to be told you were not good enough, to want something so badly it hurt. One of his students was a 15-year-old boy named James. James lived in a group home. He had been in foster care his whole life. He was angry and defiant and struggled in school. But when James sat at the piano, something changed. His anger melted away. His hands, which usually were clenched into fists, relaxed on the keys. He found peace in music, just like Marcus had. Marcus worked with James every Sunday for 6 months. James learned slowly. He had trouble focusing. He missed lessons sometimes. But gradually he improved. And more importantly, he started to change. He fought less. He smiled more. He found something to care about. "Music saved me," James told Marcus one day. "You saved me." "No," Marcus said. "You saved yourself. I just showed you the piano. You did the work." The Golden Lotus thrived. Gerald expanded the restaurant. He bought the space next door and knocked down the wall. Now there were 30 tables, and the piano was in the center of the dining room instead of the corner. Marcus played 4 nights a week now, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. He had become a fixture in the Seattle music scene. Not famous exactly, not like concert pianists who played in symphony halls, but known, respected, loved. Other restaurants asked Marcus to play for them, offered him more money. But Marcus stayed loyal to Gerald. Gerald had given him a chance when no one else would, had seen his worth before the world did. That kind of loyalty mattered to Marcus. Catherine Morrison wrote a book about teaching music. She included a chapter about Marcus. She called it The Student Who Taught the Teacher. In it, she admitted her mistakes. She wrote about judging Marcus, about underestimating him, about learning that music was not just for people with perfect technique and expensive training. "Marcus Chen showed me that music is for anyone with a willing heart," she wrote. "He taught me humility. He taught me that sometimes the best musicians are the ones who have something to say, not just technical skill to show off." The book became popular in music education circles. Teachers across the country read it. Many of them changed how they taught. They became more open, more encouraging, less focused on perfection and more focused on passion. 2 years after Marcus's first performance in the rain, the city held a ceremony. They officially renamed the Third Avenue piano. It was now called Marcus's Piano. They put a small bronze plaque on it. The plaque read, "Never let anyone tell you what you cannot become. This piano is dedicated to Marcus Chen and to everyone who refuses to give up on their dreams." Marcus stood at the ceremony with Rosa by his side. She held his arm proudly. She had become like family to him. They still met every week for coffee. She still came to hear him play at the restaurant. "Your son would be proud of you," Marcus told her, "for helping me, for believing in me." Rosa smiled through tears. "No, he would be proud of you, for not giving up, for proving that love and determination can overcome anything." The ceremony ended with Marcus playing a concert at the piano. He played his mother's melody, of course, but he also played a new piece, something he had composed himself, something he had been working on for months. He called it The Echo of Tomorrow. The piece was not technically complex. A trained musician might call it simple, but it was full of emotion, full of story. It started soft and sad, like the early days of homelessness. Then it built slowly, showing the struggle, the practice, the determination. Finally, it resolved into something hopeful and bright, something that said, I made it. I survived. I found my way. People in the crowd swayed as they listened. Some held hands. Some closed their eyes and let the music wash over them. When Marcus played the final chord, there was a moment of perfect silence. Then applause, but not just regular applause. People cheered. They whistled. They shouted his name. Marcus stood and bowed. He looked at the crowd, at the piano with his name on it, at Rosa beaming at him, at Gerald and his family who had come to support him, at David with his camera still documenting everything, at Catherine Morrison who had become his friend and teacher, at some of his Sunday students, including James, who stood near the front. This was his life now. This was who he had become, not despite being homeless, not despite having no training, but because of everything he had been through. Every struggle had taught him something. Every setback had made him stronger. Every person who doubted him had made him more determined. Marcus walked away from the piano that day with his head high. He had proven something important, not just to others but to himself. He had proven that it was never too late, that dreams did not expire, that the human spirit could endure almost anything. He had proven that piano was not just for rich kids or trained musicians or people with natural talent. Piano was for anyone who loved it enough, who worked hard enough, who refused to quit. Marcus Chen was a piano player, a real piano player, and his story echoed far beyond Seattle. It echoed in the hearts of everyone who had ever been told they could not do something, everyone who had ever felt like giving up, everyone who had ever dared to dream despite impossible odds. The echo of his story would continue. In the young woman who lived in her car but kept fighting, in James who found peace in music, in countless others who saw Marcus's video and decided to try, to learn, to pursue their own impossible dreams. Marcus walked home that evening to his small apartment. It was no longer just a room in a boarding house. He had saved enough to rent a one-bedroom apartment. Small but his own. He had even bought his own keyboard. He could practice whenever he wanted now. He made simple dinner, rice and vegetables. Then he sat at his keyboard and played. Not for anyone else. Just for himself. Just for the joy of it. The pure simple joy of making music. As his fingers moved across the keys, Marcus thought about his father. The man who had told him piano was not for people like them. His father had been wrong, but Marcus did not hold it against him. His father had been trying to protect him, to prepare him for a hard world. He could not have known that sometimes the impossible becomes possible. Marcus thought about his mother. He wished she could see him now, see what he had become. But maybe in some way she did know. Maybe that is why her melody had stayed with him all these years. Maybe that is why it was the first real song he learned to play. Her love had echoed through time, through hardship, through everything. That night Marcus dreamed about the future. Not a famous future, not a rich future, just a good future. A future where he kept playing piano, kept teaching students, kept working at the Golden Lotus, kept living his simple, beautiful life. In the dream he was old, very old. His hair was completely white. His hands were more wrinkled and scarred than ever. But they still played piano. They still made music. And young people gathered around him listening, learning, finding hope in his story, finding courage in his example. The echo would continue. Generation after generation, person after person, the echo of a man who refused to give up, who taught himself to play piano while homeless, who proved that circumstances do not define you, that it is never too late, that dreams matter. Marcus Chen's story would live on, not because he became famous, not because he was the best pianist in the world, but because he represented something universal and powerful, the resilience of the human spirit, the power of determination, the magic of refusing to accept limitations. He was proof that any person in any situation can change their life, can learn something new, can become something more. All it takes is courage. All it takes is persistence. All it takes is refusing to listen when the world says you cannot. Marcus Chen had listened to a different voice. the voice inside him that said, "Try anyway." And that voice had led him to a new life. A better life. A life filled with music and purpose and hope. The echo of tomorrow had become the reality of today. And it was beautiful.